Welcome to another Tweedy Pubs video.
This week without Tweedy. We are in Kendall, and of course we're looking at historic pubs. You might think it's that one behind me, Ye Old Fleece, with 1654 on the gable end wall. But no, it's gone all gastro. We're actually going to be having an interview, a discussion today with a landlord of a pub in this town, and we're going to ask him what it's actually like to run a pub that is recognised by CAMRA for its historic interior. And to get to the pub, we've got to leave the town centre of Kendall. We're going to head off down that way to Kirkland. Welcome to the Ringer Bells in Kendall, one of just 4 pubs currently trading, listed with CAMRA for their historic pub interiors in the Lake District. Now, when I say Lake District, I should clarify that we're not in the National Park here, but Kendall is very much a gateway to the Lake District National Park, and the locals like it because it doesn't do the house prices any harm. We understand that the pub was built in 1741 for a Thomas Barker, who was then the sexton at the church next door. When Tweedy and I came up with the rash idea to do a video swap, we naturally exchanged brand guidelines. I've got his here. I'm just going to do a quick check on them. Renounce the scourge of farrow and bull wherever encountered. Well, no fear of that in a good old-fashioned northern boozer. Get the reflection of yourself filming in mirrors, pictures, etc. Well, that's a tick. I've done that. What's this one? Best stick to half pints. In the entrance lobby, CAMRA note the old off-sales counter, and there was some Victorian bench seating still here until the floods of 2016. There's also this nice old encaustic tiling which runs through the snug and the rear lobby too. Through an old door to the front bar with the counter featuring stained glass over. The rear bar looks to be modern, but we do have these nice old windows stroke serving hatches through to the lobby and the snug. There's half-height panelling, sash windows with side panels and a fireplace which looks quite modern to me. I really liked this well-used Victorian bench seat, so that's where I sat. I can't imagine Tweedy's going to be very happy about this. I'm drinking coffee in a pub, but we are out of hours. I will be having a pint. Correction, a half pint. I must do this properly a little bit later when the pub opens. The tiny bell ringer's snug has some old panelling and that serving hatch that we saw from the other side in the bar, and then there's a newer hatch as well. The rear lounge has sash windows with shutters, an old fireplace, panelling and an alcove recess, plus beams with knickknacks attached, as you would expect. The Grade 2 listing describes the Ringer Bells as an 18th century inn with sash windows and a single-storey extension to the rear, probably once stables. Lots of local folklore, including Charles Dickens having visited the pub with his friend Thomas Longmire, a wrestler. What an odd century the 1800s were. I was able to find this clipping of Longmire from 1851, but that has him in Troutbeck as opposed to Kendall, and there's no mention of Dickens. But we have been able to find some partial evidence of the association of Bonnie Prince Charlie with the Ringer Bells, an account from 1865 in which a Mr. Hogarth recounts the Jacobite rebels visiting the pub in 1745. He'd been told about it by relatives, apparently. They were in town at the time, and they demanded of our Thomas Barker that the bells be rung and the muckle pipes played. Slape Wilson, a man of peculiar metre, I'm going to use that, refused to ring for such a beggarly crew. I'm going to use that as well. Thomas Barker saved the day by telling the rebels to ignore Slape like they all did. I do like this account because it makes me wonder if the change of name from the Thomas Barker to the Ringer Bells in the early 1800s possibly was because of the memory of that incident. We also found this from the late 1840s when an acclaimed shooter of pigeons, George Walker, was in residence. And then again in 1849, the paper tells us that a crack shot from London will be engaged to tackle the Kendall hero. I can only assume that Londoner was sent back home with his tail between his legs. You'll see from this old map that there used to be buildings on the other side of the yard, and possibly there's some old masonry from that in the current wall to the yard. Anyhow, next I sat down with the landlord to find out what it was like running such a traditional pub in this day and age. Hi Tony, thanks for inviting us down today to the Ringer Bells pub. How long have you been here?
Well, we've been here now 2.5 years now, actually, leasing the pub. So
lovely.
It was shut just after COVID because it couldn't do with the 2 metre rules. As you see, it's around the pub.
It's too small.
It's too small. Yeah, you can't. The swing of the cat comes into it. You can't do that.
And as you know, we're here today very much looking at the CAMRA rating for its historic pub interior.
Yeah.
Is that something that you gave any thought to when you took the pub on?
Yeah, you know, the traditional English pub now is dying. It's dying a death, really. The whole thing of get a room, take all the walls out, make it to one big room, as a lot of big pub groups are doing now, takes the character and takes out what was a traditional pub to sit down. You know, you look around the pub, like the main bar's little room, everybody starts talking. That's what pubs used to be, a place
So
for
it was
good
actually
conversation.
an attraction to you, that
Yes.
factor?
Yeah,
sort of,
yeah, definitely
You
was an
didn't see
attraction.
that as a negative?
No, not at all, because, you know, if you do like going to the pub and you like an old-fashioned pub, then there's nothing better to sit down with a log fire going in a nice close little room.
Because as you say, it is sort of counter, isn't it, to
Yeah.
very much the sort of trend today. This space with what are 3 relatively small sort of bar areas would just be knocked into one.
Yeah, not into one big room and the bar in the end, and they'd just be lifeless as soon as you find some place, aren't they?
And I noticed on the actual Grade 2 listing for the property, that doesn't make any reference to any of the internal features in the pub at all.
Not really, no. No, there's a couple of very, very minor sort of things that when you look at it, you could actually rip the whole interior out and put a new one in.
Because that was a question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Does the CAMRA list rating for the pub, the 2-star rating of CAMRA, does that afford any protection at all? I can't imagine that it does.
It doesn't really, no. The list is for the exterior of the building.
Yeah.
But, we get people now who come in of a certain age now. Remember when it was actually one little serving hatch on the bar and it was glass shutters all along the bar.
So, Tony, would you say that the historic interior, does that actually pull any customers in? Do you get people coming here?
We get a lot. We get a lot of customers over at different things. Obviously, we're on telly for a few things, and that draws them in. But the whole thing of the pub, it's on consecrated ground.
In terms of running a pub in 2024, do the historic features create any problems for you?
Yeah, to be fair, it's capacity. We only sit 44 people in the entire pub. It's a relatively big space. You look at the length of the building, you look at the size of the building, and you come in and you think, where's the rest of it?
But what about the locals? Do you have? How would you say the locals feel about the historic interior? Is that important to the local crowd?
It is a lot to the local crowd because it's one of the only few pubs in Kendall that's still trying to stay original.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to. Obviously, businesses have got to evolve to keep going. Well,
I make it that this is one. I know we're not technically in the Lake District, we're not in the national park, but I make it that this pub is one of only 4 pubs listed on CAMRA's historic interiors site within the Lake District, which is quite incredible.
It is, because unfortunately the pub trade in a whole is having to evolve to what's happening, and it is difficult, and you've got to be able to run what you've got. Some of these pubs look lovely inside, but they also get refurbs and they try and make them look more authentic, but they're just not the same as a piece of wood, that's got lots of holes in it from
this place has got
the tax of all the years of all the decorations being put up.
This place has got the atmosphere, hasn't it?
It has.
I mean, I'm actually sat on a Victorian bench, which, according to the CAMRA listing, I think they think, it's probably been here since the Victorian.
Yes, it more than likely is. It is. Well, to be fair, we're a free house, so we're not actually tied to any brewery as what say, apart from, it's been part of Thwaites at one point, been part of Vaux. It's been part of a few different pub companies over here, but now luckily it's a free house, which is what's allowing it to survive.
If it wasn't, this interior wouldn't survive.
It wouldn't survive, no. It would not be. There would be... I'm not saying it wouldn't survive, because a few pubs they do look after as breweries do. It's got that historical interest, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to pounds and pence, unfortunately.
In the early days of Tweedy Pubs, he used to do a pub bingo card for all the sort of cliches, if you like, of a pub. Now, obviously, we've got the ghosts here, which is really, really popular. We've got Charles Dickens. We've got Bonnie Prince Charlie. I have to ask you, did Oliver Cromwell ever stay here?
Well, that's what we don't know. That's the thing. There's lots of different stories that go around the town about this pub.
Tunnel. Has it got a secret tunnel?
Right. That is one of the biggest questions that we are still trying to unearth. The walkway to the main cellar is very strange. The big stone wall comes out. We've had an archaeologist when they were doing the flood defences. We had an archaeologist in. She had to go dig under it. She said she'd love to have time to actually go under it properly and dig down and see what's under it.
But when you're in the cellar, it does actually feel like that could be older, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. That's the thing, with the archway. There's rumours the archway was used to keep the bodies cooling. for the church. The small room at the side you went in, the bell ring is snug. That's actually known as a laying out room, because what they used to do was actually lay out in there and people would file past and pay their respects.
And do we know when that was?
No, that's some of the things we're still digging up. It's
Probably Victorian.
It is a hard thing trying to find a good timeline. And I believe if it was going to be anywhere, I would say it's actually under the lounge in that mound where there possibly was an original building over the top of it, and it was something.
You've got
there.
a full house on that bingo card, I would say.
Yeah.
Got the
It is. Yeah. It was built for the bell ringers, aka the Ring of Bells.
Yeah.
So, and the bell ringers still come in here every Wednesday night for a pint. We'd like to say it's a good pub with good regulars, a good crowd following, and some good tourists straight at the moment.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. My final question is it time now for a pint?
Yes, it's getting that time now. Definitely is.
Let's go and sort that out. Thank you very much, Tony.
Not a problem.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
sir.
Okay, Tony, so we're a CAMRA pub. Tell us what the current offering is. And
So,
you could give us the prices as well.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a local stand. This is done by a gentleman in CAMRA. So it's Cartmel. Because of CAMRA, that's what it's confusing. This one in Cartmel, just down the road, is a small independent cider producer.
Lovely.
So he's really good. That's $4.60 a pint. To be fair, I think the more traditional ciders, like real ale in some respects, they're wanting, they don't want to see the chemical sort of stuff. We have the generic brands as you do of cider, and all the lagers, but they are looking at the more independently produced and the care that's taken in some of the beers nowadays. Keep it independent all the time.
So you vary it up quite a bit, do you?
Yeah, the beers change on a sometimes daily process by how busy we are. Keep it traditional.
What do you think CAMRA's view of the blonde beers are? They? I don't know what their view of them is.
It's very strange because we've got a few CAMRA members who come in here and drink, and they'll just drink blonde ale. It's a big question. It's same with everything. It's all down to personal taste and preference.
So we're now in the lounge bar. What have you got to offer in here?
Well, in the lounge bar, we've got a range of different things. Like this is a Beacon Bitter. This is from Eden Brewery up at Penrith. We do quite a lot with them. They're a fantastic little brewery. There's some quite interesting stuff. Another handsome, a lot of local one, Top Knot. It's a cracking pale ale. I do like the pales round here. Also, Ganyan, that's another local brewery we do quite a lot with. They were the first beer that went on this bar when we took over. We decided we're going from 2 cask ale pumps up to 6. We've got something different in. We'd like to try, and it is good to bring up. We're a local beer pub, but it is nice to put something on from Suffolk. We do fine ales from up in Scotland. We do all different sort of brewery. It does keep it all.
To quickly run through the prices. So the Suffolk is.
Well, to be fair, the real truth is most of our beers run at £4.
Well, thanks for showing us your current range, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And it really is time for me to have a pint.
Yeah, not a problem.
I was nearly a man of peculiar metre then. I almost forgot the fascinating window etchings at the Ringer Bells. This one, dated the 1st of January 1824, wishes then landlord John Reed a happy new year. So clearly there were no beggarly crews in the Ringer Bells in 1824. There's something interesting if we walk round next door to the church and take a look in there. Inside the church here we have a pub sign painted by Jack Fothergill in 1814, and it was painted for John Reed, he of the etching fame, when he took over the pub. Note flagon of beer, no health and safety for bell ringers. Well, that was great fun, and please be assured that Tweedy will be back next time. If you'd like to find out what he's been up to while I've been filming this, hop over to my channel, up there, over there, wherever, and you can see Tweedy in action as he investigates London's Roman amphitheatre. And naturally, it does include a pub. Oh, and some squirrels. I get nosebleeds going to London, what with all its underpasses and the like, so huge thanks to Tweedy for picking this one up for the Gazette. I had huge respect for what Tweedy achieves with Tweedy pubs before I did this, but now I've gone through the process, that has gone through the roof. There is so much folklore around these traditional pubs that everybody believes and accepts, whereas Tweedy has a real commitment to finding the hard evidence, the facts, and reporting on those only. He does that as well as running 3 other channels as well. And he does 5 pubs, doesn't he, typically, on each video. So I'm going to, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to put my hat on indoors so I can take it off to Tweedy pubs. Oops about that half pint. I hope you enjoyed that. A huge thanks to Tony and his family for accommodating us today. I found it really, really interesting. I think it must be pretty hard running a pub like that in 2024 when in reality it's so against the vogue of things. So full credit to him for what he's doing there. If you're ever in Kendall, make sure you check it out. I'd like to also thank Tweedy for allowing me to do this. Don't worry, he'll be back next week. And I think he ends these by just saying goodbye. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.
I thought that was a statue there. Then.
I'm really important. There ought to be a statue of me.